I'll find out.
Yeah.
So they're gonna have what that whole business funding connection now network is to have Triad, have facilities, that collaborative,
I love that.
So I think right there we need to.
Do you need to?
Yeah, so that's what we have to list.
All right.
Yeah, I can project, so I'm good at being able to. No.
You should have joined the military.
There you go, right?
I'm a little rebel.
Oh, look, I was a rebel without a cause in the military, so I'll let you know. It's a home for rebels.
I colored in the lines.
So
Really?
do we need to get closer to be on the screen?
I was-
You guys can stay. I'll move it. There we go.
Okay.
No, I was the complete rebel without a cause from like day one.
No,
Really?
I was always like class leader, platoon guy.
I was all that, but I was the lightning rod too, which is crazy.
By the way,
I got a good story too.
By the way, we're live on that.
Hey, LinkedIn.
What's up, LinkedIn? What do?
Live on Facebook, live on LinkedIn.
There you go.
Yeah.
I heard you're meta now.
Yeah. We're everywhere. We're literally everywhere.
Nicknames.
All right. Are we good to go? Should I kick us off here?
Yes, go for it.
All right, awesome. We welcome everyone on the LinkedIn world, the Facebook world. We're excited to have this hybrid session. If you're joining us on Zoom, you can use the chat. If you're in person, a mic, or I guess you shout out wherever you are. We've got a lot of different platforms going on, which is awesome. So welcome everyone to Veterans Care, honoring our heroes. We're really excited to hear from an incredible panel today. So I will take up any more of their airtime and turn things over to Nefertari Strickland.
Actually, I'm not the
Recording in progress.
I'm the center of this trio right now, but I am not moderating this conversation. I'm here just to answer questions. Martin Pratt.
Of course, habit.
There you go, right? Exactly. I know you're now the panelist instead of the facilitator.
That's right. That's right.
Let's
It's
go.
my job. It's my
No,
job
the
too.
pressure's on now.
Yes. I really.
Nefertari voice.
Yes.
I'm really excited to be here because I think that this year for me, during COVID, has been one of that I became aware that most of the people around me, close to 40% of my followers, are veterans. I did not know that. And until Clubhouse, I wouldn't have known that until I was able to go into veterans' rooms and hear what veterans go through, particularly Black veterans. So one question that we dealt with this morning is I have a room on Clubhouse at 9:30, and I said, Happy Veterans Day. Someone who's not a veteran said, you should take down happy.
Oh,
So I wonder, what does Veterans Day mean to both of you?
Wow. So my name is Nefertari, Captain Strickland, if you're so moved. And I am second generation. So this morning in my family chat, there was a whole lot of Happy Veterans Day. We say happy. And it's Happy Veterans Day to you too. Of my 5 siblings, only one did not enlist. And that was because of her vision, and she was hard. So for me, it's a time to commune with my own family about our service, because 3 generations, my nephew and niece are enlisted as well.
Wow, that's what's up. Jimmy?
see, for me, Veterans Day it's a tough day. I'll be completely honest. You know, being part of this greater Philadelphia and now national veteran community, you have so many issues and circumstances that are going on that it makes it a challenge. I can see why someone would say they would drop the happy. But in the same breath, you know, since I've identified myself as a veteran, because when I left the military, I didn't. You know, I left the military in 2006. I was a nuclear electrician on submarines, part of Operation Iraqi Freedom, and had this commitment to excellence on my submarine that was unmatched in this bond and fraternity. I'm actually second generation as well. So I'm actually a second generation submariner. My father was a submariner in the 70s. And he never talked about his military service. He never celebrated Veterans Day. In fact, it kind of discouraged me from joining the military until it was like my life was over. So it's kind of tough to really take on the mantra of I'm a veteran and I'm proud of it until you find your tribe and your community in the veteran community. So now that I have my tribe, now that I've done stuff locally and nationally, now that I have people that support me like Captain Strickland, I now have a sense of pride when I say that I'm a veteran. And when Veterans Day comes around, I recognize that, yeah, we're talking about Veterans Day today, but the honest truth is Veterans Day is
Every day.
Excellent. I realize I did not properly give you both introductions. So please tell us about yourself, Terry Strickland, Captain Strickland.
Straighten it up.
Let us know who you are and where you hail from, and then where did you serve at?
So I still currently serve with the 28th Infantry Division here in Pennsylvania with the National Guard, and we always have to say, we're not here representing the Department of Defense, our DoD branch, etc. But I am here as both a service member as well as a daughter, a dependent of service members. So I was born into this, is what I would say. I was born on a military installation in Panama, Fort Clayton. We moved from Panama to Georgia, from Fort Benning, so infantry. We moved from Fort Benning to Fort Lewis. We moved from Fort Lewis overseas to Europe, where I was in Wiesbaden, Frankfurt, Germany. Then we came back stateside to Georgia again, where we were at Hunter Army Airfield, and then that's when I enlisted. At the age of 17, my mother signed off, and I signed up. Joined the Georgia Army National Guard as a signaleer. Had a break in service, then re-enlisted again with the Rhode Island Army National Guard as a logistics officer, and then came to Pennsylvania. So it's about 15 years of service, but I'm approaching.
Wow. Jimmy, White?
You see, first and foremost, I'm a South Philly kid. I'm a South Philly native, born and raised on cheesesteaks. I bleed green for the Eagles and orange for the Flyers. A little bit of blue right now. Vincent's go back, and then red for the Phillies. And interesting. My path was I was kind of that overachiever in high school. MVP the basketball team, was part of about the projects, all kinds of cool stuff. And college just didn't work out for me. I wound up dropping out of college here at Drexel, right around the corner, and then dropped out of Temple. And after wasting my mama money the second time, she pulled me to the side. She said, "Son, you can either join the military or you can work at McDonald's." And I said, "I can't work at McDonald's because I'll eat all the food. So I guess I'm joining the military." And it was the best decision that my mom and my brothers ever made for me because I really learned discipline, got to work on my craft, and use all these character strengths that were already inside of me, but I needed someone to guide me the way so that I could build and stack them together to kind of be the man that I am today. So after I got out of the military, I went into property and facilities management, literally worked my way up from the bottom, went from operating a nuclear reactor to changing toilet seats and filters, worked my way up to a supervisor position, manager position, and then global operations for a large Fortune 500 company. And I wanted to come back home to the Philadelphia area to see if I could do something positive. So I took a lesser job and I began working in the center city. I'm now proud to say I'm director of engineering for the Four Seasons Hotel here in Philadelphia. So if you're downtown, you haven't had some carrot cake pie, come see me. But it's an amazing property, amazing hotel, and a company that really cherishes the veteran community that serves here. So if you get a chance to follow them on social media, you might see a video of us veterans being there.
Both of you are legacy veterans in military service. And I'm starting to see a pattern, or at least amongst my circle. Could you speak to you joining at 17? What was it like telling your parents that, hey, I want to continue this legacy, and then also you?
I was encouraged to. I was encouraged to because of the benefits. If my parents, or I don't want to say if they did, but the trajectory that they were on, my father's Panamanian, so close to a third world country at the time, received his citizenship by joining the U.S. Army. My mother's from the south side of Chicago. So joining the military, although there is prestige and you can serve your country, there are also the benefits, the safety net that the organization provides you with so you can focus on the mission. So for many families, they're automatically put into lower middle class. You don't have to worry about where your next meal is going to come from if you and your children want to have a roof over their head. So as I was coming to the end of my high school career, I was encouraged to join the military, do a career full 20 years, get my retirement, and then start my life.
Got it. You also, Jim, yourself?
It's interesting. Me, on the other hand, when I went to the recruiter to sign up for the Navy, the recruiter asked me, like, who in your family was in the military? I said, my uncle in the Air Force. Because my father just never talked about his service. But when I came home, I actually passed the nuclear power exam and told my dad that I was going to join the Navy. And I had two choices. I could be on an aircraft carrier, or I could be on a submarine. And I told my dad, I said, I'm going to be on aircraft carriers. And he's like, what do you mean? I said, there's girls on the aircraft carriers. And I heard there's McDonald's, which isn't true. There is no McDonald's on the aircraft carriers. But my father turned to me and he's like, you're going to be part of the brotherhood. That's how he's a salty sailor. That's how he told me. You're going to be part of the brotherhood and be part of this submarine service. And for me, it was, it's my father, so I'm not going to say no to my father.
Right.
And that decision took me on an amazing journey of ups and downs. But really, it wasn't about continuing his legacy, even though I'm actually Jimmy White IV. It was really about carving out my own path. And, I've been blessed. I was a Navy, I won a bunch of Navy achievement medals. I was Junior Sub of the Year, and my father actually came to that competition with my mother. And to see the pride that he had from seeing his son excel in the military. And let me take it one step further. Doing things that he was not allowed to do during that time frame. So my father is the most intelligent man that I know on this earth. He's the type of person that if you watch Jeopardy with him, you're mad at him because like, why are you not on that show and be quiet and drink? Exactly. And he wanted to be in the nuclear power program, but because he was African American and the many challenges that he faced even then in the late 70s, he wasn't able to do it. And then for me to be able to turn around and be a submariner, a nuclear submariner, and achieve some of the highest accomplishments that you can as a submariner, it was extremely prideful moment.
You both bring up interesting things that as someone who is a citizen, has never served, that we don't have knowledge of. So can you explain, in your service, what are some of your duties, your active, now, but when you enlisted, what was your active duties? And then also, what's a Samaritan for our audience?
Right, so for me, coming in as a signaleer, junior enlisted, I was just doing what I was told to do. And that's when you're on active duty status or when you're on M-Day status for National Guardsmen, that is what a junior enlisted person's life can consist of, whether it's mopping. I know how to buff floors. We used to wear the black boots. I know how to shine boots really, really well, get a lighter. But then as you start to progress in your career, you start to take on more responsibility. And then as an enlisted personnel, you'll start to manage people.
Right.
And not necessarily just leading people or planning missions, but actually the day-to-day welfare of other human beings.
Right.
And that's a critical skill that soldiers, sailors, Marines, airmen have is supporting people. Right? And so now as an officer, I do a lot more planning. I have less time with those junior enlisted soldiers, but I find time when I can to come in contact with them because I learned so much. And then I think back to when I was mopping and buffing floors, and I try to make sure that I provide them with as many opportunities to learn their job as I possibly can.
Very good, very good, thank you.
Yeah, it's interesting for me. I was a dirty blue shirt. So like a dirty blue shirt. So you got your officers, and then you got your blue shirts in the Navy that actually get the job done.
Wait, Jimmy, do you want fries with that?
Oh,
Do
geez.
you want fries with that?
Oh, sure, right.
I know, right?
Not the chips, right.
Exactly. So, it was interesting because I was part of the nuclear Navy, and only 2% of the Navy is nuclear trained and passed through that schooling. So I advanced really fast because of that. But on the submarine, a little bit different from a conventional military and conventional Navy, you are responsible for everything. I tell people all the time, like my number one goal in that submarine was not to die. And to make sure that submarine goes down and it comes back up. So we were the damage control. We were the cooks. We were the cleaners. We were the ones that administered drills. We did everything on that submarine, which really helped me, similar to Terry, where once I was able to know all the jobs, understand the skills, I was this tough kid from South Philly. So I kind of had like this chip on my shoulder.
Yep.
And like I told you, my number one goal was not to die. So if someone else on the sub didn't do their job, we were probably fighting in the back of the engine room because they didn't change that filter today. You gotta make sure it's done. Until I had a really amazing African-American chief, Chief Coleman, pulled me aside and said, Jimmy, what are you doing? Like, why are you always on edge? Why are you always hot? Like, why are you all this? I said, because I'm not gonna die. And he's like, why do you think you're gonna die? I said, because this is a submarine and it's got ordnance on it. It's got a nuclear reactor. He said, Jimmy, you're trained for this. You understand everything on this submarine. You're one of the best guys that we have. Let your training kick in and begin to be a leader of people, not just a leader of yourself. And that's when my career started changing in the military, and I use those skills even today. I don't think I answered your question, but that's what I had on my heart.
Well, it's funny because I think you were impacted just as I was by Terry's talking about emotional intelligence,
Right.
And also what I call intentional intelligence. But before we get to that, so Samaritan, what is the duties of a Samaritan?
Oh, so everyone has a different job that they have depending on their rank and their trade. But long story short, I was on a fast attack submarine. Our job was to go out there to find the enemy, destroy the enemy, spy on the enemy, get intel back to our command so we know what we're doing. In 2003, we were actually part of shock and awe of Operation Iraq Freedom. So we shot 20 Tomahawk missiles on that, which was an unbelievable experience. There was Samaritans that had been on the submarine for 10, 15 years that never shot live ordnance. And to know that we were supporting the troops on the ground so that the mission could be complete, we could hopefully save some lives. It was one of the greater accomplishments, but now as I'm older and I reflect, it's also one of the most conflicted challenges I have as a veteran.
Gotcha. So talk about a little bit about something that the captain Strickland brought up.
Don't let her do that to you. Just don't call her Nefertiti.
She earned that. Right, yes.
Yeah,
well, everybody in our group on LinkedIn is a Nefertari, not Nefertiti. Terry. So the emotional intelligence you talked about as a skill set of being able to help direct people. And because you have that previous knowledge of having done their jobs, and but you're also looking at their holistic life on base, in duty, in theater, wherever. When you look at your life outside the military, has that blended over? Has that bled over into? Do you find yourself at the supermarket, at the cashier, and you're seeing like 5 cashiers? One is kind of not doing this. You ever like, hey sis, I think if you looked at your job today and saw that you're a frontline worker,
You sound just like me.
I'm just saying, emotional intelligence starts to turn on. So,
well, what I will say is that no one should ever be above mopping and buffing the floors. And if you keep that mentality, no one can ever ask you to do anything that makes you feel uncomfortable. Especially in the Army, somebody will tell you to do something like Roger that, sir, Roger that, right? It's when it's used in a way where you might be subordinate but they're keeping you in a box of
Yes.
being a cashier.
Yes.
We're keeping you in the box of being a bad boy or girl.
Right.
You can think to yourself that I know that I will grow from this experience. There are things that I'm learning here that will apply to greater experiences and future experiences. So for me, instead of harassing all of the cashiers at Wegmans, I actually established an LLC that works with teachers to provide opportunity to youth in the region, because I see that there are gaps in between students' education and the workforce.
Yes.
So I take everything that I'm accustomed to doing with my soldiers,
Yes.
even with my peer leaders, and I apply it in that space.
Excellent. And I'm curious to know more about your story, Jimmy. Actually, before we go, let me go back to that, Terry. What's the name of your nonprofit research?
It's actually a for-profit, and I did that with intent, right? It's a teacher's hand with an ampersand
No.
that denotes collaboration.
That's a really cool logo. That's what's up. Excellent. Jimmy, when you were telling us about that situation where the gentleman said, "Why are you?" You know, over that next 5 or 7 days, as you contemplate that conversation, what were some of the things that helped you to de-escalate your intensity?
It's funny that we're here on their pin. It really was this concept of knowing the difference between my toughness and my grit. So if you've ever read the book Grit by Angela Duckworth, you will kind of get this idea from their positive psychology concepts that grit is not just about this roughness, that hardness, or this chip that you carry on your shoulder. You know what I mean? It's really about your determination. It's about your passion. It's about finding your purpose and working in your flow. So on a submarine, I was working in my flow. If something broke, I fixed it. If there was an issue, I found a problem. I found a resolution to it. You know, it was like I looked at everything as an opportunity, no matter what I looked into, and it endeared me to the leadership team and also to the subordinates that were underneath me. But what I found is that when I had those one-on-one interactions, it was so my style of leadership was so abrasive that I was actually pushing people away. But then when I realized that grittiness really wasn't, it needed to be refined so that it was this fine-tuned, strong leadership skills where I can step up to the plate, knock something out the park, but then carry someone else behind me and bring them up to that level as well. One of the things that we do very well in the military is we work on succession. And it's something that I'm actually bringing down to my department, in my engineering department, where I'm looking at those junior people and say, how can I get you to the next level? And then how can you even better get to my level and do it better than I'm doing? So those are the type of things that really, that one situation where I got pulled aside by a chief saying, you need to fix yourself, where it's like, oh, he means that I need to work on what I'm saying and what I'm doing so that I can advance better. And then once I started putting that into motion, I started teaching it to others. And you can see I have a new operation manager that's working underneath me. He worked underneath me for past properties as a technician. And I taught him certain skills and techniques on how to lead people. I'm sitting in an interview with him and like he's spouting off like all of my references and how I organize shops and how I do schedules and how he just made it his own. And I'm like, dude, I don't even care if you get this position. I'm just so proud of you to see you go from this level to the next level. And that's something that we do really well in the military community and that we need to do better in the civilian community.
We have a couple comments from LinkedIn. One is from Janice Purdy. She's a 2-time cancer survivor in DC. She says, celebrating and saluting our veterans from here in DC. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thanks for the support.
And Darryl Perry, gotta love our veterans.
Oh, appreciate it.
One of the things that kind of concerns me on Veterans Day, and I would like to see in 2022 to hopefully not have the same type of conversation about what I'm going to say, is that up until recently, I didn't realize I had a bias. So I looked at people in the military who succeeded and came out, as, wow, those are unicorns. the people that, because I grew up in the 70s, and my, what I was observed as far as the Black community, the veterans, were there either were people that were facing housing insecurities, or they were people who were facing some type of mental crisis, or the person was given the option not to go to jail. And that was the three levels. Now, in the last 2 years, I've met so many veterans, and like you, second, third generation veterans, that, and what's come up consistently is, why do you think, Martin, that in the Black community, veterans aren't held on high esteem as we do with fraternities, sororities, as we do with legacy generational organizations, whether it's Jack and Jill, or it's, why are the veterans kind of regulated over to the corner? And so I would love to hear a little from you before we go into the veteran cares and what missions you both are on here in Philadelphia.
Right, so I definitely believe that there is a narrative about veteran service members, and it's you're a warrior or you're a wounded warrior. So specifically with the Black community, we tend to stay in small clustered groups. So civilians don't necessarily penetrate those circles, or we don't identify. So I don't lead with I'm a veteran, and I definitely don't lead with I'm Captain Strickland. That's not absolutely necessary.
Right. I need to see that captain on like that.
I poke fun at
least on Clubhouse.
Yeah. So,
but you are wearing your picture on Clubhouse.
That's,
that picture.
I am. Okay, so I think that it's time for us to tell a different story. It's time for us to individualize some of the experiences and amplify those messages.
Yep.
So we understand that there have been Black service members in War of 1812, in World War I, in World War II, in the Vietnam War, in the Korean War, in Afghanistan, in Iraq. We have been a part of the story and the narrative of the fight for freedom the whole time. But when you see a movie, that's not necessarily a message. And there is the moral harm that's there, because conflict and war isn't the happy story.
Right.
And when we're producing media and content, often there needs to be that conflict.
Right.
Right?
Conflict resolution. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
So thinking about how we can use some of the positive traits and positive experiences to then communicate some of the results that we want to see, like Jimmy was saying, in the submarine at depths, he's doing certain things that he carries with him today. At what floor is the Four Seasons on?
I was 60.
The 60th floor. So that'll make your ears pop. He went from that station and took that with him. I take things with me. What else can our veterans bring to our communities? What can Black veterans bring to Black communities? What can Black veterans bring to the general population? That's about it.
I totally agree. I think to even add more onto that is that we've been isolated. So the veteran community as a large has isolated themselves from the general public. I'm a perfect example of that. I did not identify myself as a veteran, and I did not identify myself as a civilian when I got out. So I was no label, no community, no team to be a part of. So what we have to do as a veteran community, but even more so in the African-American veteran community, is we need to wrap our arms around each other, support each other in whatever we're doing and whatever we're saying, so that we know that we have a support system. Because once you have that tribe, then you're now empowered to do even more. I think the other part of it is this, and I totally agree, is that when people hear the term veteran, the next thing that you typically hear is veteran health, or veteran affairs, or veterans broken,
Or veteran suicide.
I totally agree. And it's kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to start this social impact initiative, to explain that, yes, as a veteran in a veteran community, we care about these issues, and these issues are important. But we are part of the general public. We are citizens before we are anything else. So veterans, we care about politics. We care about social injustice. We care about Medicare for all. We care about the environment. We care about education and youth empowerment. You know, to label us just as saying that the only thing that veterans care about, especially on Veterans Day, is our handout, our free coffee, our free cheeseburger, or free wings at Applebee's. I gotta get those. It's not true. You know, we in the veteran community, we look to get what we earn and what we deserve. We don't want a handout. We want a hand up. And even more so, the challenge is now, how do we get those outliers? How do we get those veterans that feel isolated, feel disenfranchised, don't feel like they're part of any community to step up to the plate and begin to serve in those communities? Because what we found is that service is empowerment. Service is a sacrifice for someone else's for their gain and not your own personal gain. And it feels good when you can hand over to someone else. Like me and Nefertari are really good friends. And when I support her and I see her shine, you know, that's my community, that's my sister. And I'm beaming from left to right. And I know she feels the exact same way. So we need to grab those outliers, bring them into the community, and then make sure that veterans, when we are talked about and we are seen in the community, we are seen as an asset and not as a deficit.
That's very good. That's very, very good. As both of you look to the future, we're almost at the end of 2021, and we're on 11/11/2021, so it's a very significant day. What are some of your goals with each of your projects for 2022?
So last year, close to the complete lockdown, I was doing soul searching and what I want to see in my life, manifest in my life. And it lies in great part in education, both of myself and supporting others along their educational journey. 2022 or 22.
Mm-hmm.
So 22 veterans commit suicide every day,
Right.
is the statistic.
Wow.
And I asked myself, what would make someone take such an action where it's permanent? You know, the permanence of that. And I think about all of the no's, I think about all of the challenges, I think about all of the rejection that one receives when they're transitioning back into their civilian life, and bringing all of the experience, possibly trauma, that comes with them from service, from war, possibly. And I think to myself, how can that seeking of personal growth through education help individuals? Many service members have GI Bill at their disposal. Often they're not involved in higher education for research and development, and they're not necessarily brought onto campuses to be part of staff, to be professors. And so for me, helping service members find places in higher education, whether that be as students, as academic researchers, or partners in the classroom, is where I would like my energy to lie. I'm personally on that track, and I'd like to support others in doing that as well, finding that secondary mission for themselves.
Excellent. Thank you.
I love that. So for me, for 2021 and running into 2022, it's really about adopting these titles as a connector and an amplifier in my veteran community, where I can connect other veterans with like-minded ideas, projects, and possibilities so that they can show fruit from the connection that I made. So that it's not necessarily for me, it is me amplifying them so they can go to the next level. The other one with amplification is really, we have, even in the veteran community, marginalized smaller subsets of that community. I think of military spouses, where they've been, when we think of Veterans Day, I'm sorry, but my wife lived with me for 1 year while I served. In that whole year, my wife was struggling. She was dealing with isolation. She was dealing with me on multiple trips out to sea, moving and shaking all by herself. Look, she had the challenge. Mine was easy. I just had to put on a uniform and serve. She had to figure out all this stuff for herself. Sometimes the spouse serves just as much as the service member, and sometimes I would say even more so. These Blue Star and Gold Star families, that's part of this expanded military community. If you don't know, a Blue Star family is a family that has a family member that is actively serving right now. A Gold Star family member, that is someone in their immediate family has lost their life in service to this country. How many times do you hear about Blue Star? How many times do you hear about Gold Star? There's some of the most uplifting stories that you ever heard from these people that have dealt with the ultimate tragedy and rebounded to come back and honor those fallen by continuing to serve. So I really want to be that connector. The Veteran Cares Initiative is all about that. It's that we care about more than our veteran affairs. We care about our community and our community at large, and how can we continue to be supportive, engaged, and present in that community. So I'm excited for it.
And I would love to just add to that. So Blue Star, Gold Star, and there's a push for the Green Star.
Yes.
For those who have lost their life to suicide, and recognizing those families and their needs and supporting them as they heal and recover.
Yeah, that's wow.
You're going to learn today.
So, and let me just put this out there. One, it should not be lost on you that this is Army and Navy in Philadelphia.
Yes.
Like, let's not let that be lost on you. And I'll also say, as two sides of the enlistment divide, enlisted and officer. And this is a duality that creates balance. Right? There's planning and execution. There's looking deeper into the mission versus what needs to be done right now. So it's all in jest, right? But we work together.
Yeah, we're stronger together than we are separate.
Yeah, I've been blessed, again, in the last year or so to have different type of veterans in my life. And on the LinkedIn, we've had conversations multiple with Brother Moses West, who's out in San Antonio. He builds atmospheric water machines that pull water out the air, and those machines are deployed throughout the Marines and the Army. And one of the conversations I had with Moses and Charlemagne is a brother who has a podcast for veterans called Bricks City, is down in Greenville, North Carolina. And the two conversations we had was really interesting about it. We started talking about the service and us showing up in blackness. But then we went into Moses is two-time cancer survivor, Army Ranger. He got COVID 3 times. So he's a survivor and thriver. And Charlemagne is a grandfather now, and his daughter is enlisted, and his father was enlisted. And both of them said one of their concerns is what happens to veterans when they come home, and how the mission just stops. But the people that, as you just said, the people that have the training, logistics, how to move things from one place, from one port to the other port, the people that know how to build a building in a week are here in our communities. And one of the things, the wish list that Moses said, is that he wished that we had an organization that could help veterans identify missions locally that were something that, 4 or 5 people could come together and help this grandmother maybe build a ramp for a person that has a wheelchair. And there isn't an organization that necessarily does that. Is there anything in your goals you say that you both have missions? What could you say to someone who's a veteran that would help them be able to find their mission in their local community?
Can I take this one? All right. So here's the thing that I would say to that, and I'm extremely blessed that I get to speak and mentor to a lot of veterans and young adults. When you transition from the military, you now no longer being dictated what your mission is. So instead of now having a mission, you must now have a purpose. And here's the interesting thing about purpose. Purpose is never about yourself. It's always about what will your legacy and your service be to others. So first, once you decide and can narrow down what that purpose is, you can then begin to collaborate with others. Realize that you don't have to do this on your own. It's interesting because we're military, and one of the things that we like to say is pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And then all of a sudden, the civilian world takes that and says, oh, you want to be a millionaire? Pull yourself up by the bootstraps. You want to have your own house? Pull yourself up by the bootstraps. It's one of the biggest false narratives that there is in American society, that everyone has pulled themselves up by their bootstraps. I'm sorry, when you look at Oprah, when you look at Denzel, when you look at Will Smith, you look at Donald Trump, you look at any one of those, they've had people in their life that supported them emotionally, financially, and physically to get them where they are. So find your community that's associated with that purpose to get you to that next level. And then the other part of that is this. There are organizations out there that are doing these things and that can connect you. So myself and Nefertari are connected with Yang. Yang is a social, social skill sharing platform where we do exactly what you say. We put calls to action out there. And when we put those calls to actions out there, we get to share the skills and traits that we have for each other and do it in a way that is collaborative, that is fun, and that is genuine. And it's not just for monetary gain, it's for the betterment of the entire community. The other one I would say for that is there's other organizations. Myself, I'm associated with the Travis Manning Foundation. Their mantra is, if not me, then who, which I live out every single day. And there's a poster outside with my face on that one. And the thing is, what we like, the reason why I love the Travis Manning Foundation is because they will put a call to action out there, or even better, they'll let you be a social entrepreneur. So they can turn to me and say, hey, Jimmy, what do you need in the greater Philadelphia area? I said, well, Thanksgiving's coming around, and there's so many needy families out here that need finances and need a turkey for Thanksgiving. So the Travis Manning Foundation supported me. I connected with a high school. We now, this year, our goal is to collect over 450 turkeys to give to needy families in the greater Philadelphia area. It's all connected through social media, and then we go out there and actually do the work. And then to our connection with me and Nefertari, we connected on LinkedIn. A LinkedIn chat that said, hey, let's connect. And then Nefertari said, what we gonna get done? I was like, this ain't just a casual LinkedIn conversation. Exactly. We're talking about getting some work done. I said, say less, let's make it happen. And I've been extremely blessed to have her as a friend, and we've accomplished some amazing things, and I can't wait to see what we accomplish next.
Absolutely. So I'll just add to that. Everybody's in a different place. All the challenges that Jimmy had mentioned that service members have, that's a part of the narrative, that's a real thing. There are people that are living that reality right now, and we don't get the luxury of coming and sitting up here and saying it's Happy Veterans Day. But I think it's really important to put in some time to self-discovery. Everyone doesn't have the resources to do that. The organizations that help with the transition out of the military do provide resources, but they're not always specifically the right resources at the right time. So when you're in a position to do that self-discovery, I encourage it. If it's through education, if it's through higher education, I encourage it. But that servant leadership, as much as you're serving others, you're supporting yourself, supporting your own personal growth. It comes back to you so many times fold.
Let me put one last challenge out there. So I might have a TED Talk out there called What's in Your Life Blueprint. That might have been produced by this lovely lady right here and TEDx Interpret That. So in that conversation, in that TEDx, I talk about the blueprint model that Dr. Martin Luther King taught young people. And you can use that now today. So if you are one of those veterans that are looking to transition from mission to personal purpose, look at my TED Talk, let's do the blueprint exercise, and I'll do whatever I can in my power to help you transition.
Can you say, well, thank you very much for that. And can you say the name of the foundation? Is it Travis?
The Travis Manning Foundation. You can find them at travismanning.org.
Manning is how you spell it?
Yep, MANION.org. And you can go on YouTube and you'll see plenty of videos of me supporting their causes. In 2018, I was their national award winner for the support that we did with Parkland High School.
Excellent. And want to mention two other resources. There is the myvhwf.org foundation. If you go to that, it's Veterans Health Wellness Foundation. It's set up by an Air Force, a retired Air Force doctor, Dr. Evelyn Lewis. On the site, they have a thing called a resource tool locator. If you go to resource tool locator and you're a veteran or a family member, you can search by your zip code for all kind of resources that are available. Dr. Lewis pays a monthly fee to give that out for free on the site, the Veterans Health and Wellness Foundation. And then one of my supporters just texted me that he's willing to also open up his dude ranch in Northern California. If any veteran wants to just get away and come out and just ride horses. His name is Michael Spartan.
I hope he got some big horses.
They do. His family,
Nice.
He's a Hollywood producer of animation.
That's
So
awesome.
he opened up his ranch to any veteran that wants to
And it's
come.
interesting, if someone needs it, I would encourage them to take them up on that. I think it's called equine therapy.
Yes.
I'm seeing that a
Horsemanship.
lot.
Yeah.
For veterans.
I did a program in Horncraft in the Malvern area with my wife for veterans, a free program that was associated. So we consider that alternative health therapy. And it was amazing for us to just commune with the animal and to share that time and to kind of get that distance and work on your mental health space. So it's a really cool program. That's awesome.
I think to kind of create a nice frame around everything, something we didn't talk about that, I'm trying to think which concerts that happened. One of the things that became apparent is I started talking to more veterans, and I have a t-shirt on called Black Honor Society. And our goal with that on Clubhouse is to honor a veteran, a teacher, a logistics worker, and a medical professional each week. And in framing the conversation about that, what came up is that, Martin, military has a lot of benefits. And because we were talking about people leaving and not getting their full disabilities, and in talking about that, they were like, so I asked Charlamagne, why did you recommend your daughter to go into the Navy when it took him, he had to, go through a bunch of different hurdles to get his 100% disability. He said, because we got this, we got that, and da. So for you, you both, what are some of the benefits to someone that may not understand military life? And we all, like you said, we always hear a certain narrative. And we very rarely hear the beneficial side of that narrative and why legacy families are even legacy families. So what would you say are some of the benefits that you experienced by being in the military?
I think it's textbook or doctrine, purpose, direction, and motivation. Improving the organization while accomplishing the mission. So for me, there is a way that I look at everything. There's a way that I codify, there's a way that I process and go through my decision making that was trained into me, that is now just reflexive. And it serves me well, it serves the organizations that I work for well, and I feel as though it allows me to put a whole lot of things on autopilot so I can focus on the novelty of the situation, the things that may be different, that could be the difference between success and failure. So if you had to find a framework for life, you might want to pursue a BS degree versus a BA degree. What's the difference? Right? It's supposed to be the rigor, right? The sciences. So you take someone that comes out of the military and they have the rigor. They just need to be exposed to the content. And so the benefits of the military of structure, certainty, you're going to get the training, and then you're going to have an opportunity to apply that training in a real world scenario where all the bets are off, the security goes away, right? But it's about winning the war, winning the campaign. So if there's any young person that's looking for direction, they will literally issue it to you along with your boots. Right? So some people decide to take a different path and want more ownership over that. And so they look to research frameworks. They look to frameworks in the business community, and they're trained in different ways. And you'll see the civilian sector adopts a whole lot of practices from the military. They adopt a lot of terminology. So there are benefits, but there are costs to those benefits as well.
Right.
Like I said, we won't have to worry about a meal. We won't have to worry about a roof over your head. But when the call comes in, it's time for you to be ready to go in 18 or 24 hours. That's the cost.
Yes.
That comes along with that. So would I trade it in for the world? No, that wasn't your question. No, I wouldn't. Right. But it absolutely is a cost to my family,
Yes.
my time,
Yes.
my youth,
Yes.
all of those things.
It's interesting. I remember being in boot camp and being that recruit questioning, is this worth it? I remember that. So it's an extremely valid question. And now, as a father of 3 boys, that's something that I have to ask myself. Do you negate the costs with the benefits, and what are those? Are they true? So I am of the adage that everyone has to find their own path. And if it aligns with your path and where you're trying to go, I'm going to support you 150%. But I tell people this, when you join the military will use you. So you need to use the military to get what you want out of it. Don't tell me you want to join the military just to get a flashy car or something like that, because I can tell you horror stories about enlisted guys in years of debt with a 10-year-old Corvette. But if you're telling me that you want to join the military for the educational benefits, cool. Let's talk about what job you want to do in the military, how long you plan on staying in the military, are you going to make this a career, what are you going to do after that, which flows into that blueprint idea. So don't tell me you just want to do it to run away. Don't tell me you just want to do it for the immediate short-term gains. Show me how this aligns with your purpose that you're going to have as part of your life and the legacy that you want to leave in this world.
Can I, it's kind of a question, kind of a statement. What are your thoughts on patriotism? Because we talked about, three hots and a cot.
Agreed. I am of the adage of General McChrystal, where I think that everyone that's a citizen of our nation should serve. It does not necessarily need to be in the military. It can be in other means. But service to country there's nothing like sacrificing your time for others, for you to get a perspective of what life is all about. We live in a society right now where everything is about me and how I look and how I achieve and how much money and yada, yada, yada. Humble yourself and work in an inner city center and see someone less fortunate than you and how that'll inspire you. That actually happened to me before I joined the military. I was going through a major depression after dropping out of college the second time, and my mother said, you got to do something because you're not working at McDonald's, so go volunteer somewhere. So I volunteered in South Philadelphia in the projects. And I saw kids that were 10, 11 years old that couldn't read. And I joined a program called Freedom School and helped them learn how to read. But it puts so much perspective in that, to go back to the Travis Manion Foundation mantra, if not me, then who? If I'm not serving my country, who's going to do it? It's got to be me, because I have these initiatives, I have these skills, I have these passions. It's got to be me that steps up to the plate. So with that being said, you got to look at the cost and the benefits, but it has to be part of your blueprint and part of your purpose in life.
Yes. Wow. I didn't realize I thought that I could frame out the question that, but yeah, I took me to another place. We have one question from LinkedIn, Dr. Lanisha Adams, friend to our club on LinkedIn, the Black LinkedIn Club, and one of the co-founders, says that how do we honor and recognize you in addition to saying thank you for your service, so we support you?
Honor and recognize. I don't know if I need to be recognized, and I don't know if I need to be honored, as much as I need to feel more confident in my fellow citizens and their ability to do the right thing when no one's looking. There's a freedom, quote unquote, that we fight for that we all as citizens are now or have access to, that I was a part of the response in Washington, D.C. in January. And that call came in, and I needed to be ready to go. And when it felt like the sky might fall, I had to get in the car, and my husband and my children were in the drive. So by no means am I attempting to get political, but there's a better way to have discourse. There's a better way to maintain your bubble. Because when you feel like others are infringing upon your rights and your freedom, you want to tell them what to do. Are you willing to self-police? In the military, we say, can you police that up? Mm-hmm. You go and police that up. If you take care of your area, I can take care of my area, then the whole AO is good. Right? So for me, it's not so much that I need to be recognized or honored. I need to feel honored by being in this country.
Can I take it one step further?
One of you.
Look, I'll take it one step further. You know, I teach young people that that if you love somebody, you don't just say it, you show it with your actions. Mm. So prove it to me, not with your words, but prove it to me with your support. Prove it to me with your dollars. Prove it to me with your time and your energy. Support the initiatives that we have out there. Support veteran-owned businesses. Support those that are in need and struggling. Don't just don't wave the flag and call yourself a patriot and that you honor the fallen. How do you honor the fallen? Do you serve? Do you donate? Do you recognize? If you like a clothing line, what are you going to do? You're going to go into your pocket and you're going to pay for that clothing line. Well, if you care about veterans and the veterans community, show it to me in your actions.
Well said.
So how can we follow either of you? What social media do you want us to contact you on?
I'm on the Snappy chat. I'm on the link that got ends. I'm on the Instagram. I'm on the book that got bases.
The House of Clubs.
Yeah, the House of Clubs. We're all there. My tags are all Jimmy White IV. For Jimmy White the Fourth, you can follow me on jimmywhiteiv.com or my website. You can see my TED Talk on YouTube. That again, TED at Intrepid Ave, produced, and Nefertari is a community organizer for that. And most importantly, you know, when there's calls to actions out there, answer the call.
So Teacher's Hand is the handle, and Nefertari Strickland on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is my preferred social media platform.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule.
Thank you. Give a hand for the moderator.
But so we're looking forward to, I know you have a project that's going to be coming up, working with a young man in Kingston, that we're going to be, hopefully, the VentureCafe family will join with Nefertari as she helps this young man get more knowledge and more information about his project in Kingston, changing the narrative in Kingston. And we're going to follow your hashtag, Veteran Cares, as you identify veterans that we need to know about.
Great.
Excellent. All right, thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, we get to salute?
Yeah.
I love it.
Are you doing questions?
Yeah, let's do questions.
Questions, my parking
Now
spot.
exclusive questions.
Yes, let's make it happen.